The 14th Annual Africa Rail Conference is currently underway here in Sandton at the Convention Centre. It's said to be about strategic finance, investments and operational solutions for Africa's rail operators. We're now joined by Tobias Heinemann, who is a Commercial and Marketing Officer at Rift Valley Railways. Thanks so much, Tobias, for your time. Give us an understanding of what's going on within the railway system in Kenya. Apparently the rails have been undergoing privatization for the longest time. It's just been so cumbersome and slow, that process. Is that your experience at RVR?
Right, but now the situation is pretty much stable. We have a new shareholder team on board. We have our leading shareholder coming from Egypt. We have TransCentury, which is a 34% shareholder, and then we have a third Ugandan shareholder. All of it, we are planning to modernize the whole system. We are in the process of finalizing our negotiations with potential lenders around the world. The sum that has been mentioned in the past is up to $164 million. Yes. Additional 80 million from the equity side will bring it up to 240 million that we as RVR plan to invest into the system. So what are we going to do with it? Three issues. First, we want to modernize the tracks. Second, we want to refurbish locomotives and rolling stock. And third, we want to implement a completely new IT and operational system. So all in all, will increase the capacity of the whole system.
I mean, I recently attended a stakeholder summit, and apparently procurement is one of the biggest challenges in Africa. As you talk about getting new locomotives, for instance, trying to introduce better technology for the functioning of the systems. You're having to source parts from Brazil to Europe to everywhere else, and it's just so difficult getting it done. Is that your experience?
Well, it is not the procurement issue that is difficult. What is in these days really difficult to convince everybody on the lender side that we have a good project. We are pretty sure that we will finalize this in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then our task is to implement the 240 million story. And we are pretty sure, but by refurbishing our existing locomotives and wagons, we have the same ability to increase the capacity than buying new ones. It takes more time. You know, getting a new locomotive around the world, I think it takes in between 18 to 24 months until it's being on the track. So let's take our existing ones, refurbish them, getting better spare parts, better bogies, make them more comfortable, make them more safety so that they can even run faster on the tracks. That can also increase the whole capacity of the system, which is needed and required for the whole economy of Kenya.
Let's talk about the investment case for rail.
Right.
Because certainly we're dealing in this economy with the big question as to whether or not we need freight rail, we need passenger rail. Is it the best way to go? And I think a lot of African countries are grappling with it as they talk about improving on transport infrastructure and infrastructure in general. So how much money ought to be going to roads? How much money ought to be going to rail? Is that the way to go? Is it the future? Yeah,
the future is the following question. What is the market share that container should have being railed or road from Mombasa to Nairobi or Kampala? Today the situation is that 94% of all containers which are coming into Mombasa and going to Nairobi or Kampala are going via truck. There is only 6% are going via rail. But if you look at the environmental solution and the environmental problems, I mean, it is much more better for everybody in Eastern Africa if we rail a container from Mombasa to either Nairobi or Kampala. In terms of pollution, a rail system is much more efficient than trucks are running. So the issue is that all of us, we need to make sure that we really see a shift in terms of market sharing from road to rail in the next 5 to 10 years. Everybody will see that this is a big advantage for Eastern Africa.
You know, last year, Kenya was the next big thing in Africa. The stock market was the top performer. The rates of return on investment were really significant. Fast forward, and that's not what we're talking about anymore. We're talking about high inflation. We're talking about subdued growth. We're talking about uncertainty ahead of the elections. What does that mean for RVR going forward? Because obviously, you know, the system relies heavily on the goods you move to market on Kenya's railways. You manage about 2,000 kilometers of Kenyan rail. Do you expect the economy, how do you expect the economy to perform? And just by way of how many goods you move, what is that going to tell us about the dynamism of that economy?
The biggest advantage of a railway system that it is much more cost effective than truckers if they move cargo from A to B. So the only thing that the railway system needs to make sure that they can improve capacity then they really can show the cost effectiveness of themselves. So today our capacity is limited due to the bad infrastructure and due to the fact that we don't have enough wagons and locomotives. If we could increase our capacity, we really could reduce the costs of the containers that have to be moved from Mombasa to Nairobi, and this is an advantage that everybody will see in East Africa, because this will reduce, the transport cost, and this is something that is included in all the food costs that we are seeing in these days.
People say the next strategy, or the growth strategy for RVR, needs to be a move into logistics, door-to-door services. Are you contemplating that?
Yes. The situation is the following. Today we are running a railway from A to B, where we have our station and where the next station is. But the future is that you really, as a railway operator, you need to provide the intermodal solution, the door-to-door solution where the customers are really asking for. So what we need to make sure is that we also can provide service logistics solutions for our customer, not only railing a container from A to B, but making sure that we provide a logistic solution for export, for example, for all that export stuff that needs to be exported from either Uganda or Kenya to outside the world. We can do that, and we are pretty sure with our CapEx plan we can make sure that our customer will achieve those.